welcome to Behind the Fellowship, Stories from Activate Founders. So today is going to be actually a bit of an overview briefly about the Activate Fellowship, but really the goal and core of this webinar today is for you to hear directly from Activate Fellows and CEOs and co-founders. So I'm going to quickly give you a brief overview before we open up the panel for discussion. So my name is Ava Nadell. I am the Fellowship Recruitment Intern here for the recruitment cycle for the Activate Fellowship. And really the core of my role is supported by Rick Kapinski, who's our Director of Fellowship Recruitment. And really the core of my role is to connect with like-minded individuals like all of you attendees here today and build the future of scientist entrepreneurs. So I'll pass it along to Rick briefly.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to everyone and thank you for your time. I wanted to thank our fellows for their time as well. We're going to give you, Ava and I are here to really give you the information you need to think about applying to Activate, give you the information you need to, see how you can be successful. But really the inspiration are the folks on the call with us who are living it every day, who are CEOs, they are scientists turned entrepreneur, and they're going to be able to talk about their journey and their experience and hopefully inspire some of you to apply this year. So I just wanted to say thank you to both the fellows and to the audience for actually coming and showing up here today. And I'm really excited to hear and learn even more about them as well, along with you all. So Ava, back to you.
Thanks, Rick. So let's get started. Rick, you can click the next slide. Great. So Activate was really started because we saw a gap. So many brilliant scientists had research that was a bit too applied for academia, but not yet developed enough for the industry. So they were at a bit of an impasse without a clear path forward. So the Activate Fellowship really is that path. It's a 2-year full-time fellowship that's designed to help early stage scientists and engineers transform their ideas into tangible products that solve real pressing problems. So since launching in 2015 out of the Cyclotron Road in Berkeley, we've supported 296 fellows across 11 cohorts. So these fellows are advancing solutions across 16 verticals, and they really tackle everything from carbon management to advanced manufacturing to food systems and clean water. So our fellows are based in 5 regional communities. We have Berkeley, Boston, Houston, New York, and our national Anywhere community for those located outside of our physical sites, but are still deeply committed to the Activate network. So like I had mentioned, Activate started in Berkeley, but we've grown to the Northeast and most recently to the South with the addition of Activate Houston. So with these 4 in-residence communities, they allow fellows to immerse themselves in really founder-forward cities that have strong ecosystems and resources for scientists to thrive. So for those who want to still make an impact in their local communities, that's why we introduced Activate Anywhere about 4 years ago. And that allows for a virtual experience from the comforts of your home cities, but still with the quarterly in-person visits that can really encourage that sense of community bonding. So this is one of our favorite photos that we love to share. So we always talk about how Activate is the premier program for scientists on a mission. So we exist to support fellows, and like I said in the beginning, the core of our roles are to help support you in your transformation from scientist to entrepreneur so that you can really ensure that your innovation really makes an impact. And this photo specifically is from our most recent retreat in June. We welcomed our newest cohort, and that included 47 new fellows who are creating 39 companies across 29 cities in 9 states. But we love to show this photo because the most valuable and paramount aspect of the Activate Fellowship is community. And from our panelists today, you'll really get to hear about how important community building is, because we understand that entrepreneurship can be lonely, but really from day one, as an Activate Fellow, you have a cohort that is on this journey with you and that can support you as you transition from scientist to CEO. So with that said, Activate is a path to market that really embeds you in a community. You're going to hear me say community about 10 times today, an ecosystem where you have the freedom to not only develop yourself, but develop your tech, develop your company, and you have access and support that can really champion you to help you succeed. You receive funding during the fellowship, you develop your leadership skills, business acumen. I had a professor in grad school that really honed in on saying that your network is your net worth, a bit of a tongue twister, but one core value that I really stand by. And really, the fellowship helps you gain access to partners from industries that help you raise funds and scale up even after the fellowship is done. So it's really something that is lifelong for you and your ventures. So really, I did say that was brief. So this is now a time for us to open up our panel discussion. We're joined here today by 5 exceedingly innovative and brilliant minds from the Activate Fellowship. Today with us, we have Sumedh Gostu, the founder and CEO of FASTMetals, a company whose mission is really to extract metals from industrial waste streams. Sumedh holds an MS and a PhD in extractive metallurgy, I hope I didn't butcher that, from the Colorado School of Mines and Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and is a Cohort 2025 member of Activate New York. Next, we have Yasmeen AlFaraj, the CEO and founder of NextSet Materials, a company developing next-generation thermoset materials that enable the separation and recovery of desirable and expensive raw materials from thermoset composites. Originally from the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, Yasmeen completed her BS in chemistry at UC Berkeley and her PhD in chemistry with a specialization in polymers and soft matter at MIT, and is a Cohort 2025 member of Activate Berkeley. Next, we have Camila. Camila. Uzcategui is the founder and co-founder and CEO of Manifest Technologies, a company pioneering volumetric additive manufacturing. She earned her PhD in materials science and engineering from the University of Colorado at Boulder, and has a BS in physics and a BA in anthropology from FIU, and is a Cohort 2024 member of Activate Anywhere. Next, we have Sonia Dagan, who's the founder and CEO of Atolla Tech, which is developing a LiDAR and machine learning algorithm for identifying and quantifying airborne insects. Sonia received her doctorate in electrical engineering from the City College of New York, and is a 2024 member from Activate Houston. Next, we have Nelson Ndahiro, the co-founder and CTO of Drūl. Originally from Rwanda, he earned his PhD in chemical and biomolecular engineering at Johns Hopkins University, where he developed computational biology tech and IP that has been deployed and tested in biopharma companies like Regeneron and Sartorius. During grad school, alongside his research, he concurrently pursued his passion for scientific entrepreneurship by co-founding Drūl with his co-founder Brent to make preventative tech screening more accessible to patients, and is a Cohort 2024 member from Activate Boston. Wow, you guys are all incredible. I'm so inspired, but enough talking from me. This is meant to be really an open, candid discussion from all of you attendees here. I'm opening up the floor to questions. The panelists have prepared a little background on themselves too, but really this is a time for all of you panelists and attendees to speak freely and ask any questions you may have about the journey from scientist to entrepreneur. And you can use the Q&A box, and I can call on anyone who has their hand up, or unmute yourself. And yes, I'm going to stop talking.
You want to start with someone in particular, Eva?
I'll go in order then of the fellows. So I'll start with you, Sumedh.
Awesome. Yeah. So just a background.
You can give a background. You can talk about your current journey. I know you're one of our newest cohort members as well, and anything that you think these fellows may want to know.
Sure. So yeah, I think my journey has not been straightforward. So I didn't come right after school. So I graduated in 2017, 2018 timeframe. So I was in the industry, the mining and metals industry, for 7 years. So, I'm coming back to commercialize what I developed 7 years ago. So I think I would say that path, and that's also possible, right? So I think science is what motivates me, and that's been my passion, and metals and mining and doing something sustainably for that world of things has been my passion, and it's kind of reignited. And that's how coming back to develop this thing, something really cool for the mining industry. So yeah, I'll stop there.
We can just go in order. Who's next?
I think it might
Yasmeen,
have been me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Yasmeen. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ava. I guess a little bit about my background. So I just wrapped up my PhD at MIT, and I'm spinning out my thesis work into a company. And I would say a little bit non-traditional in the sense that I think a lot of founders, like the trope goes that a lot of founders know that they want to be founders, right? Like you got to have this like martyr mentality and know that you want to do this since the day you were born. And during my time at UC Berkeley, I definitely was surrounded by a lot of brilliant people who knew that this is what they wanted to do. And that just wasn't me. I wanted to go into academia. I wanted to explore fundamental science and didn't really envision myself taking this path. I guess you guys got the TLDR, but I work on sustainable materials, which is important to me because I grew up in a small oasis on the east coast of Saudi Arabia, which was propelled forward in many ways because of the advent of the oil and gas industry. Obviously, you can be from a number of different places, Saudi, Nigeria, Scotland, and understand that the oil economy can really uplift communities. But simultaneously, I saw the ecosystems that I grew up around being negatively impacted. And there, a passion for sustainability grew for myself. And I thought that the best way to go about that was to become an academic, to try to inform policies made through an academic lens, and try to make sure, that my hometown and other places like it were not impacted by non-scientifically informed policies when it came to the like biodiversity and ecosystems. But during my time, during my PhD, I think I came to realize that sometimes pushing forward meaningful ideas that you believe there's a gap in the market for can actually really propel policy forward in a way that academic work doesn't always do. And I found myself over and over, because it's hard work being a founder. And I think that the C24, Nelson and Camila can tell you more about that than I can, having just jumped into the space. But I knew it would be a lot of hard work. So I had a lot of back and forths about it, a lot of data collection, as scientists typically do. I kept trying to tell myself, like, can I do this from an academic viewpoint? Do I feel like I need to push this forward into a startup? Do I feel comfortable walking away from this idea and doing something else to still achieve the goals that I want to achieve? And I found myself constantly coming back to feeling like there was really a gap in the market that could be filled by trying to push the tech that I was working on towards market. So I'm someone who didn't always know that I wanted to be a founder. In fact, who thought being a founder was too much hard work for a person like me, and who has found a great deal of fulfillment through pursuing this and connecting with folks in the Activate community to try to figure out how to do that. So I'll stop there for now.
Next, I believe, Camila, I believe you were next.
I think she stepped away. Why don't we go to Nelson first, and then we can go back to
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, no worries. Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Nelson Ndahiro, and I'm in the Boston C24. So I wrapped up my first year now officially of Activate. I guess the theme here is unconventional path. So I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep that going. So maybe I'll go back maybe earlier for my personal motivations as well, is that I also didn't think I wanted to be an entrepreneur necessarily. I think that I just wanted to help my surrounding community wherever I was, just because I grew up in Rwanda, came to the US for university, and I just always witnessed my family and just my entire community building back, essentially a country that had gone through a tragic history. So I just wanted to contribute to, people's lives. And I had a very, I guess I would say, a pivotal internship when I was in undergrad, where I worked for basically like a less than 10-person startup, and I was just, an undergrad junior. And I realized that, even an undergrad junior can have kind of a, at least visible impact on the trajectory of a company if they join at the right time. So it made me realize, wow, like, it feels like if I do a startup, it maximizes my possibility of contributing in many ways. So that kind of like seeded the idea. Fast forward to graduate school, and this is where the unconventional part starts. My company is actually not based off of my academic research. The way the idea started is I was at Hopkins doing my PhD, and then that's when COVID hit. I think my second year. So basically, we had like 6 months where we couldn't go to lab. So me and my now co-founder started meeting and just kind of like ideating, talking about recent papers and things like that. And since we had so much free time, we started doing, pitch competitions and try to see if we can like win money or if just our idea made sense. So we kind of bootstrapped it from there. So yeah, we're doing our PhD and doing this at the same time. I wouldn't recommend it, but I can't stop you. And so we started winning grants and competitions, and then we kind of just started de-risking it, see if this idea had legs with no particular like, if it doesn't work, it's okay. We're still pursuing our PhDs. And then we got to the point towards the end of our PhDs where this started to have legs, but it wasn't really quite ready to just go to market. There was a long path left. That's when we found Activate, as well as other support from our university, for example, and kind of just took the dive from there. And it's been 1 year of a lot of learning, a lot of successes and failures. So I think that yeah, I probably would say I've learned as much in this 1 year than maybe in the entire grad school. But yeah, so that's where I'll stop now and happy to take questions.
I can go next, Ava. My apologies for stepping out. There was a bit of a commotion happening outside of my apartment that I needed to make sure was not an emergency, but I'm grateful for to be here to speak to all of you with this amazing panel. It's always awesome to talk to other Activate fellows outside of a professional setting because you get to know them personally. But I hadn't heard Yasmeen, Nelson, or Sumedh's stories in the way that I heard them today. So it's really awesome to be here. So a little bit about myself. My name is Camila. Uzcategui, Ava. I know my last name is extremely difficult to pronounce. That's been my entire life. I think similar to a lot of us here, it wasn't a straight path. I did know and had an inkling that I wanted to start a company, but I initially wanted to be a doctor. I thought I was going to go to medical school. As you heard, I have a BS in physics and a BA in anthropology. I just wanted to be in school forever, apparently. And I really wanted to be a doctor, and I spent a lot of time in Latin America helping establish health clinics. And while I was there, I realized that though these people had access to doctors and nurses and had access to the actual people that could provide care, they didn't have access to the tools that were required to perform that care. And at that point, I realized that if I wanted to have an impact in the communities where I'm from and the communities that are sometimes most impacted by healthcare challenges, I needed to be able to work on how to actually get medical products and medical devices to be manufactured in a more accessible way. So that's really when I set my eyes to doing a PhD in material science and engineering. And I focused on layer by layer 3D printing for tissue engineering. Through my PhD, I really loved what I was working on, and I loved the idea that I could work on both, the optics, the materials, the medical aspects of it, really be in animal surgeries, and just the diversity of it all was really what fueled my passion. And at that point, I met my co-founder, Johnny Hergert, who's also an Activate Fellow, and he's the CTO of Manifest. And we started talking about, what aspects of our work had legs, like what could actually be commercialized. And we knew that it would take many years to actually get any sort of tissue engineered implant in the market. But we realized that we had some other components of the technology that we were working on that were also novel that could impact a wide variety of markets. And that's when we founded Manifest Technologies. We used to be called Vitro 3D because we were squarely in life sciences, but really pivoted into being more of an industrial automation for manufacturing technology. Looking a little bit about one of the kind of things that you pointed out, Ava, I want to like really vouch for failure because I feel like none of us would be here without it. And we did a full failure lab that I won't spoil at the Activate retreat that really made me embrace my relationship with failure even further and understand, you know, how I deal with failure and the importance of failure in a startup and in these early entrepreneurial activities that we're doing, and how to embrace it and turn it into something that can catapult us into success in the future. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, great. I'm going to pull some questions from the Q&A that you can all popcorn answer live. So, oh my God, there's so many good ones. Let's see. Oh, okay. I see one that's to all founders from an anonymous attendee. To all founders, what stages were your companies in when you applied to Activate?
I can go first. So our company, it was two people. So it was me and my co-founder, Brent. And we were incorporated, like we were a C Corp. But the only reason we were incorporated is not that, we were ahead or anything. It's just that we had won some competitions that required us to be an incorporated company to get the funds. So that's really the only reason why. Other than that, technologically, I would say we really just had a couple of lab proof of concepts and, customer discovery. And I know that, Activate goes the entire spectrum from, at least maybe some lab data to some people I know have either piloted or raised money. So that's my stage. I hadn't raised any dilutive capital either. So yeah.
Yeah, I can go next. I had not yet incorporated when I applied to Activate, was still wrapping up my PhD, unsure if I would wrap that up before starting as an Activate fellow or not. And I know that in some cases, some people start as they're wrapping up their PhD as well. So that's definitely an option. But definitely had invested quite a bit of time into customer segment discovery, discussions with industrial partners that, because I'm spinning out my thesis work, there's quite a bit of pre-leg work that was happening, both from the, proof of concept in the lab, some level of industrial adoption or industrial pilot tests, and like simultaneously thinking about it as a possible business venture, looking into the techno-economics.
I can go next. So yeah, similar to all the founders at the time of application of Activate, we were not incorporated. We just incorporated early Jan this year, just because we were receiving a non-dilutive financing, and that required us to incorporate. And I guess coming into Activate, we had this technology which was developed from 6 years ago. So we licensed it. So, we had an exclusive license from the university, negotiated the terms. So that was all in set. And similar to the customer discovery, I took some extra effort to validate our business model through third-party vendors who are exclusively appreciated in the mining industry. So to get like a second set of eyes, because it was a big decision from my end to go to an entrepreneurship journey.
So we had a bit of a different journey. We were already a C Corp. We had raised some dilutive funding, and we're in the process of raising a second round when we got the Activate Fellowship, and actually were able to close our round after we got the Activate Fellowship. And I think even the Activate brand helped us close that round. So we had gotten some non-dilutive funding and had previously won some grants as well.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. Rick, if you see one before I do, let me know.
I don't have, I guess I'm just curious if you all can speak to, I know someone asked about specifically anywhere, but maybe talk about how you selected or thought about the community in which you were applying, and if anyone applied to multiple ones, which ones, where you ended up and sort of, how you ranked it in your application and why. Maybe start with Yasmeen.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm happy to take this one on because I think mine was interesting. So I was wrapping up graduating from Boston. There's an Activate community in Boston. There are lovely people there, such as Nelson. This is a painful point in our friendship, but I decided to apply to Activate Berkeley. So I'm moving back to Berkeley. And I did that for a number of different reasons. In part, I was given the advice when I was looking at the Activate application that trying to understand what companies or what fellows are at the different locations at the time might give you an idea of the type of support that you might be able to get. You get some face time, you work together, you gather, and you have access to Activate fellows across all of the communities. So in reality, I still have had really great discussions with people outside of the Berkeley community, but it just felt like there was a match between the type of work that I was doing and the type of work that was being done at the Berkeley community. And I knew that there was access to things like the Molecular Foundry at LBL. Basically, there was some instrumentation that was relevant, specifically relevant to my type of work. And so it wasn't clear cut. I went back and forth on Boston and Berkeley, but I knew that I'd lived in Berkeley before. I liked it. I was very happy there. And I knew for the type of work that I was doing that it felt like I would have access to relevant resources. But in reality, I'm trying to tap into the resources available at all the different communities. So I decided to move. It's possible if you're willing to do that, but you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have joined Boston. No, it's okay. I joined Boston. So I was really tied between choosing anywhere, Activate Anywhere or Boston. I did my PhD in Baltimore. So it felt like why not just stay in Baltimore? Like we had a pretty, supportive community there. It ended up coming down to honestly similar reasons that we're a biotech company and it felt like Boston was like where everything is happening. And actually, even when we're in our PhDs, a lot of the people we're talking about, whether that's on an investor or maybe, clinics and universities that wanted to collaborate with us, were in Boston. So it felt like it was just like the opportunity we had to take. I will say that part of the reason actually as well, I think we're pretty transparent about the fact that we still had some roots in Baltimore. And when we got in and spoke with the managing director and everything, they were very flexible. So even though we're here, we do spend a lot of time going back to Baltimore and work with our community and supporters there. So I think the flexibility plus just also the startup community here in Boston is what made me pick Boston.
I can go next. I think for our case, we are into the mining field. So we are extracting metals from mine waste and mine tailings. So, I would be biased here because I was already living close to the New York area. So this was more convenient for me. But it also turns out that we have a big critical mineral ecosystem building up in New York area with New Lab and their, I know Yasmeen is originally from Saudi, but they have a partnership with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi is focusing more into the critical minerals sector. And just the landscape with investors and technologies in New York with recent startup fundraisers, I think this was a good community for us. And also the carbon focus. So we have a particular carbon angle in our technology. And I thought we could, with NYSERDA and all the ecosystem in New York, it would be a very good value add, to find advisors and mentors in the space, which is not our core technology. So that was my rationale for choosing New York.
For us, so our company is based out of Boulder, Colorado, which is me and my co-founder's PhD lab was based out of, and it was a kind of the only community that we could really be a part of, because at that point we had already gotten some VC funding, we had lab space, and we had office space already in the Boulder, Colorado area. And I will plug Anywhere in that we do get to visit all of the communities throughout the year. So the Anywhere community is going to be in Boston in just a couple of weeks. So excited to see you, Nelson. So yeah, so we really initially picked it out of circumstance because we just wanted to be part of the Activate community, but there were conversations that we were having internally of having a satellite lab or office and in another part of the country if we got into a different Activate cohort. So that's how badly we wanted to be in Activate.
I think everyone went. There was a question about setting up your company, and one of the questions was whether or not you can have a nonprofit. I don't think anyone here has set up their company as a nonprofit. Has anyone? No, but you can. I mean, we do accept folks in different finance, different structures. I guess I don't know if anyone wants to kind of talk about how they, how they structure their company and why they went the route that they did. That worked for them.
I'll just say a little bit about ours because we had a bit of a transition. So we initially incorporated as an LLC, mainly because it was the cheapest option in Colorado. It was like $45, and then you were an LLC like a few minutes after filling out some documentation on the internet. And we wanted to be able to apply for grants. And in order to apply for grants, you need to have an entity. But then we did transition into a C Corp from an LLC. And what was key about that is that we did get legal support in having a founders agreement in our LLC that can then be used to transition into the C Corp. So you pretty much set up your LLC in the way that you would do it in your state, but then have legal documents that can then be transitioned into a C Corp. So then you're not so far behind when you do the transition if you're not quite ready to be a C Corp.
Yeah, so we're a C Corp as well. The reason was also support from actually a professor at my co-founder's school who was like a law professor, and he was just interested in helping us. So I guess it's just a plus one to like when you're early on, like try to get as much help as possible from people that just want to help you. Ideally for free, but it's okay if not. And so yeah, so they said C Corp, and that's just because we kind of knew at that point that in order to be able to finish the R&D and scale up, we needed to raise venture capital. So C Corp is just the most efficient way to do that. And so actually the Boston cohort, my cohort has someone who has a nonprofit. And I think they may actually, yeah, 24, yeah. So they have a nonprofit, and I think Activate is very open in their support that at least what you're contributing at that point as a nonprofit is a lot of like open sourcing the things that you're working on. So I don't know too much about it, but happy to put the name of the company if anyone's interested in that. So yeah, many structures supported here.
Great.
Did everyone go at that point?
They did.
I did see another question that someone wanted to know. I'll just abbreviate it, but someone wanted to know what a typical week looks like for all of you. And I know for all of you that can range pretty heavily. So if you wouldn't mind, we can answer that one too.
I can take a stab at this to start. I mean, I'm very early stage. I just wrapped up my PhD, fresh out, university, and primarily the first thing that I wanted to do was to take a breather because I knew that jumping into things without allowing myself to rest meant that I was going to get burnt out, and I really didn't want to start on that foot. But at the early stage, a lot of it is just trying to establish connections, put your name out there, talk to different people, both who are willing to just, kind of like customer segment discovery almost. It's like talk to people who are willing to give you a little bit of their time for free to tell you what they know about their industry that they might not be as willing to share later on when you are seen as more of a competitor instead of someone who's just trying to learn in the space. And just setting up early conversations and connections with people both in the venture space, but getting it, I guess one way to put it is like trying to get advice about what the space looks like and what directions might be interesting to investors at the moment. Because one piece of advice that I got from another Activate founder was actually, when you ask for advice, you'll often get financial support. When you ask for financial support, you're probably going to get advice. And at the early stage, realistically speaking, you're probably going to have to pivot a few times. And so advice goes a lot further than some capital that you burn on an idea that's not fully baked. So right now, I'm just trying to learn from other people who have more experience in the space.
Anyone can take that next.
I will go next because I have a very specific list of things I'm doing this week. I think it changes week to week depending on priorities, right? I am a big advocate for just ruthless prioritization. Like everything is high priority when you're a founder, and there's going to be a million things on your to-do list, but you are just one person. And, depending on how big your team is, you can only delegate so much. But anyway, all that to say that this week, I'm really focused on developing new revenue scenarios. We just launched our MVP. We got some POs and are now revamping our revenue scenarios and our revenue model. We had an established revenue model, and now that we're learning so much more from the customers and the folks that we're speaking to, now it's being adapted. And then I also have a board meeting that's happening on Thursday, so that I'm also preparing for that. So ready to give all of our updates when it comes to technical business development updates, all the updates for the company, financial updates, etc. So like I said, we are a little bit unusual in terms of kind of where we are in the stage that we are as a company to be in Activate. So I think it's different for everybody, but right now the highest priority for me is just revenue, financial models, and then preparing for the board meeting this week. In addition to, I've had a few investor calls, I've had some customer calls, I've had some fires to put out. We had some great technical progress. So yeah.
Yeah, I can go next. So, like Yasmeen, we are new as well. So I think we are heading towards a fundraise right now in the next few months. So I think prepping for that fundraise is a big chunk of my time currently. I think I have some help for the technical tasks, but for the fundraise, go-to-market strategy, it's all around value propositions. How do you better it? How do you put that into different scenarios for a revenue model, worst case, best case, and how do you achieve those milestones and budgeting for that? So it's all been that, right, in the last week or two for me. So.
Yeah, I'll jump in here as well. Yeah, I definitely, I feel like I lean towards definitely Camila, what you're saying, just like ruthless prioritization. I feel like it's not everyone's style, but whenever I have a week and I have maybe two focuses at most, maybe three, then I do a lot better than trying to do 1,000 different things. What that looked like last maybe 2 weeks ago was we had pretty much a recent shift in what we think our regulatory is going to be for our first product. So honestly, just scheduled I think it was 10 meetings with different consultants, some pro bono, some people that we know, and just figuring it out. So really compressed work there. And then this week we have really important kind of go, no go technical decisions to make. We also work with a contractor, so there's a lot of collaboration happening there in California. We're in Boston. So I would say this week is very technical, plus also talking with our different customer advisors. So yeah, it shifts based on, I would say, priority. But I guess the key there is like maybe not trying to do too much. We're also a team of two, so that makes a difference.
Can I ask a question about maybe some of your challenges that you have been facing, maybe as an entrepreneur, things that like you weren't expecting that kind of got, kind of became an obstacle that you had to get around? Just does it, they don't want to share maybe a story about that? Or maybe something that surprised you even, go ahead.
Like,
Camila.
Rick, what hasn't been a challenge? Like I think though, like just like having like being CEO or CTO or like founding a company, I think, back to the failures conversation we were having, it's just like it is just constantly, knocking down those barriers and those challenges. So it's hard for me to come up with one story. Because I feel like there is a new challenge, small or big, happening every week. And back to Nelson's point, it's just like, all right, that's the biggest one. And the one that's like biggest in my face is the one that I'm gonna address this week. So nothing, specific comes to mind, but I'll just sprinkle a few. Like, how do you deal with taxes? Like we were like, oh, we're selling something. What, like, how do we pay taxes on this? Do we do sales tax? Like, just like all of the information that goes and is related to that, something that we just did not know and understand, and just little things like that you have no idea are going to come up. They're like, okay, that is a new piece of information I need to know. And yeah, so I'll just sprinkle that one as just one that just happened the last couple of days.
Yeah, I would say maybe when I was applying to Activate, I had centered my entire pitch around recycling windmill turbine blades, because that's what I focused on for the grand majority of my PhD, what I did my customer segment discovery on. Like I had done a few different areas, and that seemed like the most promising one. And I think a few days before my first interview, quite a few executive orders came out that changed the landscape significantly. And so you always get told that pivots are a natural part of entrepreneurship. I don't think I anticipated that it would come so early, or that I would have to, try to transpose what I had been learning onto a different space, in a meaningful way at that stage. I don't think there's another way for me to put it. And it was helpful to be able to talk to different people and just rely in part on the scientific background that I had to understand what translates and what will need, additional experimentation, additional data sets to make decisions about what industries might work and might not. And that doesn't mean that I've deviated away from that completely, but I felt like I had a very clear vision about what I was going to do. And I think this goes back to what Sumedh was saying earlier. Trying to understand what your value proposition is sometimes is separate to what your industry is, right? Like, really, what are you giving your clients? And I think honing in on that aspect allowed me to see where I might position myself as the landscape continued to change. But psychologically, very challenging and jarring to walk into an interview saying, "I know this is what I applied with, but let me pitch this instead." But that's how fundraising goes too, right?
I think I'll pitch in. I think one of the key challenge we've had is really no access to non-dilutive financing this year. So we were in the final stages of a couple of grant applications, and we were almost told that we'll get through one of them. And suddenly, everything came to a standstill. And, we were banking on that to grow our team and achieve some of our goals. I think it's going to stay for some time. So I think on that challenge, we are crafting a very nice partnership arrangement, almost to, it's not out yet, but, we're crafting a partnership arrangement to help us achieve the same goals at less burn rate, essentially. So I think that was something we had to pivot right away, else we would not be able to keep functioning, right? So.
Yes, Sumedh, I have honestly quite a similar experience. Not specifically grants, but so I'm in diagnostics, and when I finished my PhD last year. It was really hard to raise money for diagnostics companies. I think during COVID, a whole lot of diagnostic companies got funded, and then maybe 90% of them failed. So there's a lot of skepticism uh, at the time. So it made it hard to raise dilutive capital. And for a long time, maybe that felt like, is it our fault? Are we doing something wrong? Are we the ones failing? But I think over the long term, what that did is it kind of opened our mind, kind of like how you were saying, Sumedh, like what are the other things we can pursue? And for us, it ended up being, talking with large dental organizations that just have this as a high priority, and turns out, you know, completely different than investors. They're sitting on a lot of cash and things like that. And it kind of pivoted our focus. Now, even what we think we're building is a little bit different than what it was at the beginning. So yeah, I feel like that dark cloud of it's kind of hard to raise money as a diagnostic company honestly allowed us to even look at this avenue of working with big companies. And maybe that'll work. Maybe we'll still, end up mostly fundraising, but I think it helped a lot to just be able to have an open mind about it.
Okay, I see another question. What are things that you wish you knew about or learned earlier, either before the application, while you're developing tech? It can be taken in any direction as you see throughout your journey.
At the risk of sounding cheesy, I wish that I had engaged with more Activate fellows before, because I basically Activate has been quite flexible and like really great. I had just wrapped up my PhD, asked for a bit of a later start date, so I didn't get to engage with my cohort quite as much at the start. And as you guys have heard on this panel already, the funding landscape is not the greatest at the moment. So I think there's a lot of, concern, skepticism, anxiety, frankly. And we have a retreat every year, being at retreat with fellows who are, at different stages, some much like myself, very early stage, very much so trying to navigate this space that has all of a sudden changed, some with some experience in that already. It is really like nice to have a community. And I think for myself in the material space, the clean tech space, I always felt like there's a lot out there that, founders in the software space might be able to lean on. There's a lot of resources out there. Maybe at times I feel like that way about biotech, maybe because I was in Boston, but I just had no idea who to talk to other than these like huge conglomerate companies about how to navigate building and the material space and the sustainable material space. And just being in a room full of people that are trying to do incredibly hard work in different spaces, but who have tangible advice and are willing to share stories with like no fear whatsoever of how they're going to be perceived and genuinely want you to learn from their mistakes, key. Like I think psychologically, that has alleviated a lot of my concerns, made me feel like I can ask very silly questions and also just have faith that I'm probably not the first person to ask this. And even if I am, that people are willing to help. And I think I would have had a lot less anxiety about next steps and taking this path had I invested more time into getting to know like the community of fellows before. And so not to pitch Activate too hard, I'm in the early stages and I already feel like it's been incredibly helpful.
Just to jump in there, Yasmeen, the last point you made about um I felt that way as well early on in Activate. You get maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome because you're surrounded by very impressive people. And what I learned over the years that imposter syndrome is basically useless, no value. I mean, maybe psychologically it makes you prepare more harder for things. But the reason I say that is because I find that there's so many things now that I care less maybe how I'm perceived or what stage I'm at, things like that, that you just end up trying more things. A concrete example is there's a set of advisors kind of like that we really wanted to have because we thought it was going to bring a lot of credibility, a lot of support to the company. And the idea was, I was like, okay, when we do ABCD, then we're gonna try to talk to these advisors because we're not good enough yet. And then, at some point I just met them at a conference and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna talk to them and ask them to be my advisor. And that worked. And I feel like I lost months because of overthinking it. And yeah, I mean, I think that's one advice I would have, piece of advice is just if you apply, if you get in, for example, is just okay, you got in. That's it. There's that, leave the doubt at the door. Just try to do what you can do. Everyone is at a different stage, and that's okay. Everyone's willing to help each other. So I think, yeah, what I would change is maybe just focusing on what I need to do rather than if I'm able to do it, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Did everyone go? I was like so in tune.
I think they did.
All right, well, we're pretty much at the conclusion of today's session. I know I almost want to keep going as well too, but just a few important notes to point out. We will be sending out this recording. We'll be sending out the deck from the presentation as well. It's also important to note that if you go to activate.org/fellows, you can find all the panelists who spoke today, as well as sort by communities, by year, and you can also sort by verticals too. So that can mean ocean tech, semiconductor tech as well, and research more about these individual respective companies in addition as well. Any questions that went unanswered today, you can email, and myself or Rick will respond to you at apply@activate.org. Our Cohort 2026 application will open this September 9th. So if you head to activate.org/apply, you can sign up for updates there. All this information will be included in the email that will be sent out shortly, as well as a feedback submission form so that we can continue to improve future webinars as well. So thank you all so much for attending today. And like I said, apply at activate.org for any unanswered questions.
Yeah, and thank you for all the panelists as well. Thank you for your time and your great words of wisdom, really, and your stories. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
This was amazing.
Bye-bye.